The last light on Bellweather Row. London, like a patient conspirator, never revealed everything at once. On Bellweather Row, a narrow, crooked street that refused modernity, the gas lamps still burned at dusk. Not because they had to, but because no one had ever successfully argued they should be replaced. Their light was soft and jaundiced, the kind that suggested truths might exist, but preferred not to be examined too closely. It was beneath one of these lamps that Elias Crowe first noticed the ledger. He had not been looking for it. Elias was a clerk by profession, and by temperament a man who believed life behaved best when confined to margins. He copied records. He corrected figures. He kept other people's histories tidy so they would not spill into the present. On Bellweather Row he was meant only to deliver a sealed packet to the old Whitcomb registry, an unassuming brick building that smelled perpetually of dust and coal smoke. But the ledger lay half-exposed in the gutter, its leather cover swollen and cracked as though it had tried and failed to drown. Elias paused. Londoners were experts at not noticing things. Unattended objects, crying strangers, the subtle wrongness of a quiet street. These were passed like puddles, stepped around without comment. Elias had learned this discipline well. Still, the ledger lay directly in his path. He bent, hesitated, then lifted it. It was heavier than expected. The leather was cold, the pages within thick and yellowed. No title adorned the cover. Only a symbol pressed faintly into the hide, a circle broken by a vertical line, as if something had been interrupted mid-gesture. Elias straightened, glancing up and down Bellweather Row. No one watched. The lamps hissed softly. Somewhere, a door closed. He should have left it. Instead, he opened it. The names were written in a precise, almost loving hand. Dates accompanied them, as well as addresses, many of which Elias recognized. Bellweather Row, Dovetail Court, Henslow Alley, all places that shared a reputation for being unfinished. At first he thought it a census record. Then he noticed the final column, status. Most entries bore the same notation, account closed. A chill moved through Elias that had nothing to do with the evening air. He shut the ledger and continued on to the registry, though the weight of the book felt increasingly wrong, as if it were gaining substance the longer he carried it. Inside, Mr. Whitcomb himself received the packet with a nod and no small amount of irritation. The old man's eyes flicked immediately to the ledger tucked under Elias's arm. "That doesn't belong to you," Whitcomb said. Elias blinked. Pardon?" "You found it," Whitcomb replied flatly. "Which is unfortunate." The words settled heavily between them. "You know what this is?" Elias asked. Whitcomb sighed, as if correcting a persistent error in arithmetic. "I know what it does." He gestured for Elias to follow him through a narrow corridor, past shelves that bowed beneath the weight of decades. At the far end lay a room Elias had never seen before, its door painted black and nearly invisible against the wall. Whitcomb unlocked it. Inside stood a single desk, bare but for an identical ledger, dry, intact, and unmistakably the same. "We keep records," Whitcomb said quietly. "Some for the city, some for its obligations." Elias swallowed. "Those names, are they—" "Not dead," Whitcomb interrupted. "Not always. London is more selective than that." He opened the registry's ledger, flipping to a familiar page. There, written in the same careful hand, was a name Elias knew all too well. Crowe, Elias. The status line was blank. Whitcomb met his gaze. "You're late." The world did not end in that moment. It simply narrowed. Elias stumbled back into the street, the ledger clutched tightly to his chest, despite Whitcomb's protestations. The gas lamps flickered as he passed, as though recognizing him now. Watching. At home, Elias did what he had always done when confronted with disorder. He researched. The addresses in the ledger formed a pattern, a loose spiral radiating outward from Bellweather Row. Every name corresponded to someone who had, in some small but significant way, disappeared from London's collective memory. Not vanished precisely. Forgotten. A shopkeeper whose store no one could recall entering. A woman whose face never resolved clearly in photographs. A man who died twice in public records and not at all in reality. And always, eventually, the notation, account closed. Sleep became difficult. When Elias did manage it, he dreamed of the lamps, how they leaned slightly inward, as if conferring. 3 nights later, someone knocked at his door. She introduced herself as Miss Rowena Hale. She was too composed for the hour, her coat unwrinkled, her expression attentive without warmth. "You have something that belongs to the city," she said. Elias laughed weakly. "So everyone keeps telling me." Miss Hale's smile did not reach her eyes. "London has arrangements, Mr. Crowe. Long-standing ones. You've interrupted a process. By finding a book in the gutter? By being listed before your account was balanced." She stepped inside, uninvited, her gaze drifting to the ledger on the table. "We maintain continuity. When someone slips through, when memory fails or time frays, we make corrections." Elias's voice shook. "Corrections. Removals," she said simply. "Most people are relieved. To be forgotten is often kinder than the alternatives." "And me?" Miss Hale paused. "You are inconvenient. Clerks tend to notice discrepancies." She reached for the ledger. Elias pulled it back instinctively. "I won't disappear quietly," he said. "No one ever does," she replied. The lamps went out across Bellweather Row that night. Darkness in London was never total, but this came close. Elias fled into the streets, the ledger tucked beneath his coat, pursued not by footsteps but by absence. Doors he reached for were suddenly unmarked. Streets refused to connect. His own reflection blurred in shop windows. At last, he found himself back where it began, beneath the gas lamp where he had found the ledger. It burned again now, steady and patient. Whitcomb waited there. "You can't outrun the city," the old man said gently, "but you can choose how you're recorded." He gestured to the ledger. "Clerks don't vanish, Elias. They become footnotes, marginalia." Understanding settled like dust. Elias knelt and opened the book to his name. His hand, steady despite everything, lifted the pen that lay waiting. He wrote, not account closed, but something else, transferred. The lamps brightened. The city exhaled. By morning, Bellweather Row looked unchanged. The registry opened on time. The records remained immaculate. And somewhere in the margins of London, between lamplight and shadow, memory and omission, a new clerk began his work, not to erase, but to watch. Because London, after all, prefers witnesses, and it always keeps one more ledger than it admits.